Greetings, the internet. I am Eric Grooms, the film score fanatic. Welcome back to my channel. Let's get started with the show. So today I wanted to start with talking about a movie that I saw yesterday, The Lighthouse, directed by Robert Eggers, I believe. Sorry if I got that wrong, but I know that it was written by the Eggers brothers, I believe. I guess I can just look at notes here. Yeah, it was directed by Robert Eggers. This was a movie that I kind of had to be in the mood to go and see. And last night I finally felt like I was in the mood. Because it is, based on the advertising, you can tell this is not going to be like action-packed. It's not going to be a lot of comedy. And also based on the previous movie that we've seen by this director, or at least the one that I think is his previous, I could be wrong, but The Witch. It's a more contemplative movie, and there's not so much action involved. But it's great. It's a fantastic film. Could be one of the best of the year. I'm going to hold my judgment on that until I see more of what's going to come out in award season. But the two leads are fantastic, and I'll go into more detail on that in just a second. But there, I believe, are 5 total credited cast members in this movie, which tells you something about the type of story that's being told. I believe the 3 other people are 2 people that, like, 2 guys that walk past our main characters at the beginning of the movie. No lines or anything like that. And then the other is, well, actually, I take that back. There's probably 6 people in the cast, because there's a character that plays a role in one of the main characters' backstory, and then there is a mermaid involved in several moments in the movie. But anyway, the film, as I figured it would be, is very character heavy. It's very just about these 2 guys and how they deal with each other, and what's going on in their individual stories, and how that informs the way they treat each other throughout. But there's a little hint of possibly some sci-fi stuff going on, which ends up being a pretty fascinating situation, because this is one of those stories where it's very heavy on paranoia. So it isn't always clear if the paranoia is based in reality, or if it is just indeed paranoia and there's nothing really weird going on. It's just somebody thinks something weird is going on. So I don't want to give away too much detail. But it's very, I think there's some very cool moments, and the way I never felt like I was getting bored with the trajectory of the story or anything like that at any moment in the movie. I think it was like an hour and 50 minutes long. I stayed for the entire run, which I normally do, but I sit all the way through the credits, and it felt like it wasn't that long. Like I never got tired of whatever was happening. Willem Dafoe kills it in this. He is, someone might say chewing the scenery with this character, but I believed it 100% that he is like, this is the way people talked in this profession, in this time period, in this place. And he's just insanely good, I feel like, in this role. I could certainly see him getting nominated for supporting actor. You could probably make the argument that he could be a co-lead, but he probably has a better chance with supporting actor kind of situation. Robert Pattinson is great as well. His character, I think, had a lot more heavy lifting to do with when it comes to the more emotional development. So I guess you could really say that Robert Pattinson was the main character and Willem Dafoe was like the antagonist in some ways. But they were great. This very much reminded me of an old, black and white film from like the 1950s that you may have seen. Just pick one. I was thinking back to an old movie that took place in Ireland, I want to say, and it was about whiskey. Like it was amazing. So I recommend it. If you're into that type of film, very character driven, you should go and see it. But if you don't feel like spending the money, see it when it comes out on Blu-ray or Netflix or whatever. Totally worth seeing. So I also wanted to say the Lighthouse. It's totally, like, as I said, it reminds me of a film from like the 1950s or something like that. But it's aided by modern special effects abilities. So this is like a old, sailor's yarn of some. It's a sea story. Well, I guess what I'm trying to say is it's like a spooky, supernatural, superstitious sailor's story without the sailing. They're not on a ship, but they are deserted on the ocean on a island. And it's it feels like an old time movie, but it just has that little extra special effects for the supernatural stuff, and I'm not going to give any of that away. I kind of wish I could talk about it, but if you see it, we'll talk about it then. It's that aspect of it is really great, and I'm excited to discuss it whenever I get the chance. What do you think happened there? Or was it even happening at all? That's the question we have to ask. But yeah, very cool movie, I think. And I look forward to seeing what nominations it gets when award season rolls around, because I think it will. So let's move on to the next thing. A couple weeks ago, I did a review of this, and there was an issue with my recording. I believe it was the day that I thought I had the sound figured out. I thought I had my little mic figured out, but it didn't capture any sound for like a half hour of recording. And what was included in that was my quick little review of Living with Yourself, I'm going to go ahead and say it right now. I'll give you my verdict. The great short series on Netflix starring Paul Rudd and Paul Rudd as well. And I would give the other main billing to a woman named Aisling B, I think is how you say her last name. Her first name is spelled Aisling, and her last name is spelled Bea. And I'm pretty sure it's pronounced Aisling B. So everyone in that series is great. If you're not familiar with it, the gist is that Paul Rudd plays a character who's, having some issues in his life. He's in a rut, dealing with some depression type symptoms, and a friend of him recommends that he goes to the spa to totally rejuvenate himself. And he goes, and it seems to work. except for the fact that, and I don't think I'm giving anything away because it's in the trailers and it's all in the first episode. What they do is they clone you, and they like recalibrate your chemistry to be happy and upbeat and everything. And then they discard your old body. But this time it went wrong, and the old body survived and woke up and came home to find another version of himself living in his house. And so the series goes on from there to kind of explore the possibilities of having a copy of yourself who's happy and content and, you know, ready to do all the stuff you need to do at work. And so there's an interesting dichotomy of each of these characters' ideas of how to go about life, and it ends up being this kind of struggle between the original and the new one, and also an exploration of, you know, what does it mean to be a clone, and what kind of ownership, if you're a clone meant to take over this person's life, what kind of ownership do you have over the life that you were briefly given, and then it's taken away because the original is still there. So it has some great little twists. The ending, I think, was also a pretty good twist, and also certainly leaves it open for a future season. But Paul Rudd is amazing in both roles, and it's pretty brilliant to see that when he's on the screen, like there are times when it goes between the characters and in a way where you aren't sure which one it is until you see the way he acts. So he did a great job. He deserves all the accolades for this performance because he was playing two characters, and it was noticeably different characters, and not just like ridiculous. Like he didn't have a tick or anything that tells, but you could just tell by the attitude and the body language. So great job there. And I do want to shout out the title card design for the show was noteworthy. If you watch it, you'll see. But I picked up on it pretty quick that each time it was changing just a little bit. You know, the first time it just says "living with yourself" or whatever, in bold white letters on a black background. And as it goes, it starts to get like a little more shifty and glitchy as the control starts to unravel for the main characters in the story. So thumbs up on that. I recommend you watch that when you have time. Each episode is like 23 minutes. You know, it's a short episode, like you would have a 30-minute TV episode. There's only 8 episodes, so that's like a 3.5 hour movie or something like that. If you have time on an afternoon, just go ahead and watch the whole thing if you can. It's worth your time. So last thing I watched this week, I finally jumped into this was from like 2015, I believe, but it was a BBC miniseries called Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norell. I've heard glowing recommendations from friends and whatnot in the past, and it has always been in my queue on Netflix, and I just had never gotten around to it. And recently, when I finished watching something else that was, you know, of that time period, and I was aching to watch, you know, just anything else that kind of had that same feel. And we just got past Halloween, so I was looking for something kind of like edging towards some kind of mysterious, spooky thing. So I finally jumped into it, and you know, it took a couple days for me to watch every episode. You know, when I got home from work, I would watch 2 or 3 episodes. It's fantastic. It's fun. The ideas that they present are ones that I think we've seen in some recent things, like Carnival Row kind of reminded me. the idea, the concept of like some of the fairy tale things that we've always heard were actually real. In this series, you have fairies, and they're not how you would picture them based on what we've been shown in Disney movies and things like that. But again, another really well acted series. The production value is great. There are a couple special effects kind of things that take you out of it a little bit. I feel like but you can forgive that knowing that it's from 4 or 5 years ago, and also it's BBC. I expect high value on story and acting and writing and things like that and directing, but you don't always expect high special effects budgets with BBC shows. But yeah, that's another one that I would give a thumbs up to. I was pleased with what I ended up seeing, and it wasn't exactly what I had been expecting, based on my very limited knowledge of what the series was about. So if you have some time, go ahead and jump into that one as well. So I also wanted to talk about a couple trailers that came out this week and a news story that I wanted to share with everyone, in case you hadn't heard about it yet, and give my small amount of opinion on it. So one of the major news stories that came out this week was the fact that a film production coming up has cast James Dean in their movie. And you are hearing that correctly. The same James Dean that acted in 3 films in his career before he tragically passed away. I can't remember the name of the production company, and I kind of don't want to mention them because I feel like this is 100% a publicity stunt. They claim that they're going to have a film with other actors in it, and they're going to completely CGI this character to be acted by James Dean, which just doesn't. They made some kind of statement like, we did our casting for this, and we just came down to there was only one person who could play this part, and that's James Dean. And my response is, great. So what you're really saying is we need somebody to look like James Dean and impersonate him on set, because you're going to have to like performance capture somebody, and they're going to have to give the lines. And then you're gonna like deep fake or CGI this person to look like that person. It seems to me, and obviously if it's going to happen, I would assume the estate, whoever has control of an estate for him, has to be signing off on it, and maybe they need money. I don't know, but it seems like, to me, this seems kind of like a disrespectful ploy to make money. They're just trying to get notoriety so that they can make some more money on this probably very small production, which doesn't seem right. Like, there's a difference between what happened in Star Wars and in Rogue One. They had Peter Cushing in the film, but it wasn't just Peter Cushing for Peter Cushing's sake. This is a character, a very well-known, established character with lots of story that has been told. So I feel like that's a little different. And at the time, Carrie Fisher was alive, so they were just, they had her permission to do that, or I guess. But this feels a little different. So that's how I feel about it. Let me know how you feel about it in the comments below. please. But finally, I wanted to finish off by talking about a couple trailers that came out this week. We saw Pixar's Soul trailer. The teaser trailer finally came out. And this is the next movie to come out from Pixar, and it will be the next Pixar movie to exploit all of your emotions in every way possible. You can tell that it's going to pull on your heartstrings. If you haven't seen the trailer, look it up. But it looks like the basic gist is that there's a man who is coming up in the world of jazz. He's a musician, and it looks like he has an opportunity to make something cool happen in his life, and he tragically passes away. And it looks like possibly the majority of the story is going to be about the soul part of ergo the title of the film being Soul. So it looked cute and fun, and the animation looked pretty great. It looked like standard character designs for Pixar. So I'm excited about that one. I hope you are too. And then the last trailer I wanted to talk about, there was a TV spot that came out for The Mandalorian, which I'm super psyched about. We're just a couple days away from Disney Plus launching. But it showed a glimpse of, is it Ming-Na Wen? Is that her name? Sorry. I got to get better at remembering people's names, or I need to have more notes about them. But we got our first glimpse of her. But we also got a glimpse of an Ugnaught character, for those of you that aren't familiar, aren't huge Star Wars nerds like I am. This is the characters that we saw on Cloud City on Bespin in Empire Strikes Back. If you recall, when C-3PO gets dismembered, there are those little creatures in the junk room or whatever that are like playing keep away with Chewie, and they're also the little creatures that are working around the carbonite freezing chamber. Those are Ugnaughts, and apparently there's going to be a main character in this show that is an Ugnaught, and they're going to speak basic for all of us to understand. Basic is English and Star Wars language. When I first heard it, I thought it was what's his name? He was in The Ballad of Buster Scruggs. So when I first heard this character speak, to me it sounded like it was Tom Waits, and I immediately thought, oh, cool. I didn't know Tom Waits was going to be in this, and he's perfect for something like this, a Star Wars character that you don't even see. You don't need to see his face. Even then, I feel like he could be in a Star Wars movie, or now TV series. Now that we're getting live action TV series, but it's not Tom Waits, so he could still be in something in the future. I guess this is a character being played by Nick Nolte, so that's fun too. You get his grisly voice in a Star Wars character, along with some other great voices in Giancarlo Esposito and Werner Herzog. I can't wait for this show. I'm super excited. The creative talent behind it. Dave Filoni, for those of you that are outside of the Star Wars sphere, he is the heir apparent to George Lucas. He learned from the master himself about Star Wars story and character and all that kind of stuff, which is what George Lucas was best at. He wasn't great at dialogue and things like that. But he knew how to tell interesting stories. So I'm excited about this show a lot. I'll try to do some reviewing of this show as it comes out, probably, because it'll be the biggest thing on my calendar every week from now on. So that's just me. You can look forward to that coming. But I think that's where we'll cut it off today. Let me know what you thought of any of my thoughts about the things I talked about today. Are you going to go see the Lighthouse? Do you think it looks interesting? Is that for you? Is that not for you? Check out Living with Yourself on Netflix. I definitely hope I hear some feedback about that show. As a Kansas City person, I'm always going to be hyping up Paul Rudd because he's the best. Anywho, you can find me on the interwebs. I'm Sir Grooms on Twitter and Instagram. And you can also find this channel on Instagram and Facebook. I don't have a Twitter yet for this. I may never have a Twitter for this. But anyway, that doesn't matter. I have been the Film Score Fanatic, and I will see you next week.